Now let me give you a scenario and ask you what decision you would make. Let's say you're in high school and you have these geeky friends, and I mean they're really geeky. They walk around in My Little Pony t-shirts, they play Magic the Gathering during lunch, after school they have lightsaber battles, they have online weddings for their favorite video game characters, their pillow has an anime girl on it, they have no hygiene, they don't shower, they chew gum that they find stuck under the table. You know what I mean, they're just geeks, right? They're geeks, but you grew up with them, you accept them, they're your friends. Now, let's say during high school, you meet up with this awesome girl. She's smart, she's popular, she's athletic, she's captain of the volleyball team, and she has this big network of cool friends, and you're getting closer and closer with her. Now, here's my question for you. While you're trying to make a good first impression with this girl, would you introduce her to those geeky friends? Would you really take her to one of their brony parties? In my opinion, the answer most of you would give is hell no! Hell no! Like, maybe later on, when you get to know her better and you're more comfortable with each other, but in the beginning, when you're trying to put your best foot forward, hell no! You are not taking her to that brony party. Imagine you're sitting with this girl in the cafeteria and your geeky friends see you and they're like, hey! See you on StarCraft tonight! Oh, you're right! She's pretty! Like, if that happened, how would you honestly feel? What I'm getting at is that in this example, the girl is the mainstream audience, you are Sting, and the geeky friends is the AEW roster. What good is Sting drawing in the mainstream audience when all they see when they arrive are these cringy nerds? You have to set yourself up for that good first impression. By the time Sting convinces the mainstream audience to turn on Dynamite, there needs to be this badass Big Brother product waiting for them to create that great first impression. Because if they turn on Dynamite and all they see are these nerds flipping around, they're going to stop watching. Sting draws them in, but the nerdy wrestlers make them go away, making the whole thing a failed exercise. The idea of Sting coming to AEW and crossing over with Impact is good. It's potentially epic. But that potential is diminished by the nerdiness of the rosters. Basically, Sting is bringing in the mainstream audience to watch a product that's not ready to be seen. Both AEW and Impact are the cringiest and nerdiest that they've ever been. On Impact, you had Rosemary teleporting the roster into the ring. Like, they were at Wrestle House and she teleported them into the ring. Then they had that Who Shot Mr. Burns storyline where Tommy Dreamer is walking around dressed up like Sherlock Holmes trying to solve the case. Like, is this really the kind of product that you want mainstream audiences to see when they give AEW a chance? This is clearly a product that is not ready to be seen. Showing the mainstream audience this product is no different than taking that girl to your friend's brony party. It's a recipe for embarrassment. Sting should not have made his appearance until both the Impact and AEW rosters were ready to be seen. It's one thing to get the audience to watch, it's another to get them to stay. 1.4 million people watched the first episode of Dynamite, but they didn't stay. And the product now is arguably even nerdier and cringier than it was during that first episode. So what's the point of Sting drawing in all this mainstream audience when the nerdy bullshit is just going to drive them away again? These nerdy wrestlers are in the way and they should be off TV. Like Marco Stunt, Joey Janela, all those nerds, they should be off TV. We want a product that's cool, that's presentable, that's ready to be seen. Get these nerdy wrestlers off TV! They're embarrassing us! There was a time when the idea of a cross-promotional storyline was like a dream scenario. WWF versus WCW. Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair. Warrior versus Sting. Stone Cold versus Goldberg. It was the stuff of fantasies. Now we actually have a cross-promotional storyline, but neither promotion is ready to be seen. Just a few weeks ago, Kenny Omega was still coming out with those girls dressed up in neon outfits sweeping the brooms. And on Impact, the world champion is Rick Swann, literally the 205 Live guy who was dancing around with Sasha Banks on Raw. Right? And these are the two world champions. These promotions are clearly not ready for a crossover. I mean, on Impact, you just had Hornswoggle come out dressed like AJ Styles and beat up a 200-pound guy. I mean, come on. Is this what you want the mainstream audience to see when they watch AEW? Come on. Get these nerdy storylines off TV. They're embarrassing us. these nerdy storylines and these nerdy wrestlers should be off TV. By the time the mainstream audience turns on Dynamite, they should be gone. All that should be there is this badass Big Brother product featuring two badass promotions going at it. Stuff that makes the audience want to keep watching. I mean, look, Sting is a gateway wrestler. His job is to get people to watch AEW. AEW's job is to present such a badass wrestling product that people will want to keep watching even without Sting. But when you have all these nerdy wrestlers and nerdy storylines on TV, it messes up the plan. Because people are going to tune in, they're going to tune out. And although it's exciting, let's not overhype or overstate Sting's appearance either. This is literally a rehash of a rehash, and he is now 61 years old. However, he is still useful as a gateway wrestler. He is there to introduce people to AEW. But, is AEW ready for the introduction? You only get one chance to make a good first impression. Going back to the high school example, while you're trying to impress that girl, you're going to introduce her to your most presentable friends first. The ones with the best social skills, like the cheerful captain of the lacrosse team, the charming person in the honor society, people that make you look good. Now, let's say you have that one friend who has the yellow teeth, the bad breath, the poor hygiene, and he came to school dressed up like Sailor Moon. Now, are you really going to introduce that friend to the girl you like on the first day you're trying to get to know her? Well, in my opinion, that's the same thing as putting these nerdy wrestlers on the screen the first time the mainstream audience is giving it a chance. You do not want the girl meeting that friend on the first day, and you do not want the mainstream audience seeing those nerdy wrestlers on the first day. A lot of what AEW and Impact are doing right now are these niche geek things that mainstream audiences will find confusing and unappealing. Therefore, when people give AEW a chance, that can't be the first thing they see. You need to give them something more exciting on a mainstream level. Wrestling promotions should constantly remind themselves that these neckbeard fanboys do not represent the mainstream audience. The mainstream audience, most of them take showers, have no idea who the hell Darby Allin is, and even if they found out who Darby Allin is, they wouldn't care because he looks like a little jobber. This reminds me of something that the girls in my class used to say back in high school. They used to say that a guy has to be sidewalkable, meaning looks aren't everything, but you have to at least be able to walk next to them down the sidewalk. There's no way in hell I would ever walk next to Darby Allin with that stupid face paint, those leggings, and that stupid little skateboard. These indie wrestlers are embarrassing. The fanboys love them, but they're embarrassing in front of the mainstream audience. I agree with the girls in my class. And I would like to add that in addition to being sidewalkable, one must also be side-smellable. Meaning, you should be able to sit next to them at a wrestling event without their stink destroying your nose. Sidewalkable and side-smellable. Those should be the standards. When you're trying to look good in front of the mainstream audience, you don't put a bunch of dorks in the ring. Look, my friend has 5 kids. He has a cool-looking car, like this badass-looking sports car. He refuses to put a child seat in that car. Never! Because it's like this cool-looking car. You don't put a child seat in there. It like cramps the style. Likewise, when you're trying to have a cool wrestling company, you don't put a bunch of dorks in the ring. It cramps the style. When a bunch of nerdy, non-side-smellable fanboys sit in the front row, you can't control that because they bought tickets. However, you can control who you put in the ring. So put in cool people. People that the mainstream audience wants to see. You don't put in a bunch of non-sidewalkable nerds that look like ham and eggers. This is not AEW. This is from the WWE webpage, but it still illustrates my point. These wrestlers look terrible. And I don't mean personally. I mean their costumes and their on-screen look. They look terrible. I mean, look at how terrible they look. Remember when wrestlers look cool? Remember when wrestlers look like people that you wanted to be like? These wrestlers now look terrible. They look like cosplayers after a long day at the convention. Do you really think these look like stars? Do you really think that the next Bret Hart, the next Rock, the next Shawn Michaels is coming out of this group? I mean, come on, look at this guy. Do you really think that one of these wrestlers is the next big thing? Today's wrestlers, in my opinion, look like a bunch of scrawny, nerdy cosplayers that most people do not want to be like. When people tune into wrestling, you have to give them larger-than-life wrestlers that they want to be like. The bottom line is this. Sting's job is to bring in casual viewers. AEW's job is to keep them watching even when Sting is not around. And in order to do that, they need to present wrestlers that are acceptable to the mainstream audience. Cody Rhodes is acceptable. Jon Moxley is acceptable. Brian Cage was acceptable, but then he got beat by Tessa Blanchard, which makes him no good anymore. Lance Archer is acceptable. Kazarian is acceptable. MJF is acceptable as a loudmouth heel. Billy Gunn is acceptable. So you have these wrestlers who are acceptable. Then you have these goofy little shits that are unacceptable. Marco Stunt is unacceptable. Joey Janela is unacceptable. He needs to go. All these vanilla indie jobbers flipping around where I don't even know their names, they all need to go. Kip Sabian needs to take a hike. That librarian guy needs to take a hike. Those two morons dressed up like pandas, they need to take a hike. All these goofy, nerdy little shits need to clear out of the way and let the wrestlers who look like wrestlers be in front of the mainstream audience. The nerdiness is in the way and it needs to get out of the way. Getting Sting to get some mainstream attention is a good thing. Having a crossover between two promotions is a good thing. However, the problem is, neither of these promotions are ready to be seen. You know, it's like when your friends knock on your front door when you just got out of bed. It's like, I'm not ready to be seen. If the mainstream audience sees AEW and Impact the way they are now, it's going to be embarrassing. They should have cleaned themselves up first. It's like going back to that high school example. If you're going to introduce that girl to your nerdy friends, they better clean themselves up first. They better shower, they better brush their teeth, they better comb their hair. Take off the Naruto headband and comb your hair. And they better put on a clean shirt, you know? Basic hygiene, basic presentation. If AEW is going to spend the money to bring Sting in and get themselves some mainstream attention, they should have cleaned themselves up first, made themselves more presentable to the mainstream audience. But the thing is, they're screwing it up already. At Winter is Coming, Sting shows up, Kenny Omega wins the title, and then he runs off to Impact. So that's exciting. That's a good start. They set things up. But the problem is, their nerdiness is ruining it already. So Kenny Omega shows up on Impact, and because he's on a bus, he just has to mention the Lex Express. Like, he just can't resist that nerdy reference. Then he goes back on Dynamite, and he's still coming out, dancing with the girls with the brooms. You know, the nerdiness is still in the way. The child seat is still in the Corvette. They are still cramping their own style. Then Sting comes out on Dynamite, and they have him in the ring, talking normally and cracking jokes. That ruins everything. They should have kept him mysterious, in the distance, coming out of nowhere and attacking people. That's what WCW did. They kept the mystery going so that mainstream fans have time to hear about it and tune in to see what's going on. By having Sting talk on the second episode, mainstream fans, they don't have time to get into it. The whole Sting storyline should have been built around, why is he here? What does he want? Make it this epic, drawn-out mystery that fans have time to hear about and tune in to see what's going on. When you have Sting talking and joking around on the second episode, it's no longer epic. Now it's just this regular guy talking normally. They made it small. Wrestling promotions need to start thinking big. They need to break out of that pink bubble and go mainstream. Stop listening to the fanboys online. Their ideas are niche as hell. They support nerdy wrestlers and they support nerdy ideas. Some of them actually want Sting to be Darby Allin's manager. Like, are you kidding me? Sting is like twice the size of Darby Allin. Have you ever seen a manager that's twice the size of a wrestler? It's like, The Undertaker comes out. But then Paul Bearer's like twice the size, you know, or Rusev comes out, and he's supposed to be this big Bulgarian brute. But then Lana's like twice as big, you know. It would completely undermine Rusev's ability to get over. It's ridiculous. These ideas are dumb as shit. The wrestler should be the center of attention. Ideally, he should be bigger than the manager, and he should be bigger than the referee. The idea of Sting walking out behind little Darby Allin is absurd. Sting and Shaq showing up in AEW, it doesn't save wrestling and it doesn't save AEW. What it does is that it gives AEW some buzz and some possible mainstream attention. Don't waste that chance. When the casual viewer tunes into Dynamite, it is critical that he does not see nerdy wrestlers doing nerdy things. You've got to give him a larger-than-life product, a badass product that makes him want to stay. So get this nerdy crap off TV before the mainstream audience sees it.